Welcome back to another episode of The Word, My Doubts with me, Dilly. The mic is on. Check. Can't make that mistake again. This is a podcast. You need a microphone. Okay. Before we get started, I want you all to know that there is a fly flying around, buzzing around me. So if you see me make some moves, it's the fly, okay? So we ended the previous episode with the beginning of the second chapter, because I was a bit confused about why the first chapter ended without the seventh day being the day of rest and a holy day. I didn't really understand that, so I kind of went into just the beginning of chapter 2. So I'm going to continue in chapter 2 now, and I feel like we're going into, and by the way, I'm going into all of this blindly. I don't know if that's the right thing. I'm going into it blindly. I don't read it the night before or anything. I'm just reading the chapter on the day, like now. I don't know if later on I'll read the chapter before. Maybe that would be better, so I have my questions ready. But I kind of going into it blindly, and just asking the questions off the top of my head. By the way, I'm using the Holy Bible, the English Standard Version. I wouldn't know what to buy, but I was told that this is a good Bible to get, so that's what I'm using. And just to note, the pages are super thin. Is that normal? I feel like it could tear so easily. But anyway, let's get into it. So from where I left off, the creation of man and woman. And this is a little bit after the beginning of the second chapter, like I said. These are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created, in the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens, when no bush of the field was yet in the land, and no small plant of the field had yet sprung, for the Lord God had not caused it to rain on the land, and there was no man to work the ground. And a mist was going up from the land and was watering the whole face of the ground. Then the Lord God formed the man of dust from the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. And the man became a living creature. And the Lord God planted a garden in Eden in the east. Garden of Eden. And there he put the man whom he had formed. By the way, I shouldn't even be stopping. I'm going to just read the whole thing this time instead of stopping, which I'm doing right now. I'm just going to read the whole chapter. And out of the ground the Lord God made to spring up every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food. The tree of life was in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. A river flowed out of Eden to the water. A river flowed out of Eden to water the garden, and there it divided and became 4 rivers. The name of the first is Pishon. It is the one that flowed around the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold, and the gold of the land is good. Bdellium and onyx stone are there. The name of the second river is Gihon. It is one that flowed around the whole land of Cush. And the name of the third river is Tigris, which flows east of Assyria, and the 4th river is the Euphrates. The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and keep it. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, You may surely eat of every tree of the garden, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat. For in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die." Then the Lord God said, "It is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helper fit for him." Now out of the ground the Lord God had formed every beast of the field and every bird of the heavens, and brought them to man to see what he would call them. And whatever the man called every living creature, that was its name. The man gave names to all livestock, and to the birds of the heavens, and every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found a helper fit for him. So the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon the man, and while he slept took one of his ribs and closed up its place with flesh. And the rib that the Lord God had taken from the man he made into a woman and brought her to the man. Wait, I don't know if I read that right. And the rib that the Lord God had taken from the man he made into a woman and brought her to the man. Then the man said, "This at last is bones of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And the man and his wife were both naked and were not ashamed." Okay, that is the second chapter. I feel like I need to say what I need to say while I'm reading it, because then now I forget. There were points that I had a question or I had something to say, and now I don't fully remember. I have to say it when it comes into my mind. These 4 rivers, I don't know how important they are. I've never heard of them. I've heard of Euphrates, I think. I think that's how I know how to pronounce it. But I've never heard this. I'm not familiar with that part of the story. Also, it says that after he made man, then Lord God formed every beast of the field and every bird of the heavens. What does that mean? Because in the first chapter, I'm pretty sure he already created the animals. So what does this mean? It seemed like he created the animals before man, but then now in this chapter, to me, it seems like he created man before the animals. And this one is always very controversial, because what do you mean you made woman out of the man ribs when woman creates life, right? And something else like, oh yes, the woman is to be the man's helper. Does that mean women are to be secondary to man? Sorry, mosquito bite me. I'm in Jamaica, people. Mosquito bite me. His wife were both naked and were not ashamed. Okay, you must not be ashamed of your body. Honestly, I just feel like, okay, this is the 3rd chapter, right? And I feel like this goes, chapter 2 and chapter 3 go together, and it's called The Fall, and it sounds serious. So I kind of just want to just dive into chapter 3, to be honest with you. All right, so chapter 3, The Fall. This is when the snake come in. All right. It's interesting how it just starts like this. Now the serpent was more crafty than any other beast of the field that the Lord God had made. He said to the woman, Did God actually say, "You shall not eat of any tree in the garden"? And the woman said to the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden, but God said, you shall not eat of the fruit of the tree that is in the midst of the garden, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. But the serpent said to the woman, you will surely not die. For God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took of its fruit and ate. That was easy. And she also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate. Then the eyes of both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves loincloths. And they heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God among the trees of the garden. But the Lord God called to the man and said to him, where are you? And he said, I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself. He said, who told you that you were naked? Have you eaten of the tree of which I commanded you not to eat? The man said, the woman whom you gave to be with me, she gave me fruit of the tree, and I ate. Snitch. Then the Lord God said to the woman, what is this that you have done? The woman said, the serpent deceived me, and I ate. The Lord God said to the serpent, because you have done this, cursed you are above all livestock, and above all beasts of the field. On your belly you shall go, and dust you shall eat all the days of your life. I will put enmity, I gotta Google that, between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He shall bruise your head, and shall bruise his heel. Okay, well, if snakes weren't on their belly before, how were they walking? Riddle me that. To the woman he said, I will surely multiply your pain in childbearing. That's mean. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be contrary to your husband, but he shall rule over you. And to Adam he said, because you have listened to the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you. In pain you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you, and you shall eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread, till you return to the ground, for out of it you were taken, for you are dust, and to dust you shall return. The man called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all living. And the Lord God made for Adam and for his wife garments of skin and clothed them. Garments of skins and clothed them. Then the Lord God said, behold, the man has become like one of us in knowing good and evil. Now lest he reach out his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. Therefore the Lord God sent him out from the Garden of Eden to work the ground from which he was taken. He drove out the man, and at the east of the Garden of Eden he placed the cherubim, heard that before, and a flaming sword, and turned every way to guard the way to the tree of life. Okay, that was very interesting. I don't think Adam protected his woman when he was like, oh, the woman you gave me, she gave me the fruit and I ate it. Okay, but she didn't force you. It didn't seem like it was hard. She just gave it to you and said, eat. And you, Adam, well knew that you were not supposed to eat it and you just ate it easily. Also, Eve took it from the serpent really easily as well. But how you gonna, it's like your parent coming to you and who did this? And you're like, she did it. Or no. And as that is your woman, you should have protected her. You didn't have to like point at her. You could have said, I ate it. And then Eve should also say, well, I did too. You know what I mean? But don't throw her under the bus. And also, damn, like, I'm going to make you must multiply the earth, but I'm going to make it painful. Okay, like, okay. And because you listen to the voice of your wife, you tell me in this day and age, you know, as a man, you should be listening to your wife when she talk. Your wife know what's up. Your wife have your front, back, and side. And most men in this world who are successful is because him listen to him wife. So what is this? There was something else. Oh yes. Your husband shall rule over you. This is a dictatorship. Rule over who? Nope. Shall rule our household together in harmony. This is in harmony. One of the most famous and controversial stories in the Bible, I think. All right, so what questions do I have? I feel like, let me see if I can put down the Bible. And, I don't know if I have to go look back at it again, but I feel like, I don't know how much the Lord said to Adam and Eve. He just said, don't eat from the tree of life. Did he, well, yes, as he said, I forget, you shall die. When I was a child, there was some scotch in the fridge. And I asked my grandmother, I said, what is this? She said, nothing. And she said, it's not for children. If you drink it, you'll die. She said that to me. I never drank it. To this day, I don't know how scotch tastes. But, I mean, dye, I guess dye is like, do they even know what dye is? Have they even seen anybody dye? What is dye? How much was explained to them? Because I feel like Adam and Eve being the first people in the world, they're like toddlers. They don't know anything. They don't know what deception is. They don't know that someone is going to come and tell them, oh, of course you can do this. And, they're getting one thing from someone and one thing from someone else. And, and why would God allow a deceiver into paradise? They don't know that they're being deceived. Like, was this a setup for failure? You're actually looking at children. Adam and Eve is like picnic. How do they know that, if I do this, like the real consequences of it? It's like when you tell a child, don't put your finger in the socket. And they put the finger in the socket and they get shocked. That was me. I have to hear that story over and over and over for the rest of my life. So yes, was this a setup for failure? I don't know. Like I just feel like Adam and Eve were just curious human beings because they were like babies. They were like children. I don't know. I don't know. And is this all just symbolism? Obviously, a serpent cannot speak. So, what is this? Who believes that the serpent was actually Satan? And is it Satan or is it human doubt? And my grandmother used to say, you should not put temptation in people's way. Like, don't leave 10 grand sitting on the counter, just sitting there, just out in the open for anybody to see. Somebody might take it, whether them is a thief or, boy, I really need it tonight. Just sitting there, and I know better, but I could use a 10 grand. You just leave it there. How you gonna leave this beautiful tree with beautiful fruit amongst children and tell them don't have it? And what does it mean, the fall? Like, what does that, why is that the name of it? Like, is it the fall of man, or is it just the beginning of humanity? And was this just a setup into, I don't know, I just feel like it all seems kind of mean. Like I wasn't, or they weren't given a fair shot. And I'm one of those parents where you should ask questions. Well, why is this? And it's not because I told you so. No, you should get a proper answer. You should get a proper answer so you can understand. And with your understanding, you'll probably follow what I'm saying to you. I don't know. This is... I don't know. So this is the original sin, right? Right. This was the beginning. This was the original sin. I don't know. Or is this original sin the beginning of controlling belief? I don't know. What... like I said, a very controversial story. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I feel like they weren't given a fair try. I don't want to say unjust. I'm not trying to disrespect the Lord, but Lord, I don't get it. I don't understand. I think this was unfair. So yeah, that is my feeling of this chapter 2 and 3. But it was interesting to read. Like if I ever read it, I was probably like a little picnic. I don't know if I'd read it in its entirety. Like I said, those rivers I've never heard except for Euphrates, because I feel like I've heard, because if I hadn't heard that name before, I'd probably say Euphrates. But so I think I've heard Euphrates, but the rest of them I don't recall hearing that story. So I do find that very interesting. I'm glad that I read it. That was an interesting story. But as far as the creation and that being the real creation of life, it seemed a little out there to me. And so far, just with this, I think that God was unfair with how that whole thing happened. Like, is there more to the story? Probably not. That's the story in the Bible. Because how much did you tell these little children? How much did they understand? Because the way how Eve was like, the serpent said, oh yeah, man, you can eat it. And she's like, okay. Hey, Adam, here. Anyway, I did enjoy that story. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to it. And I don't know, that was nice. That was nice. Okay, well, in the next chapter, we shall see. This story, Cain and Abel. I will tell you my beginning thoughts of it. Obviously, in the beginning of the next episode. I don't want no spoilers. So, I have some thoughts of like just how I feel about Cain and Abel, that story. I vaguely remember anything, but I remember enough where I have a little bit of trauma. I'll say that. So, in the next episode, we'll dive into that chapter. And, thank you for listening and watching this one. It's very interesting. And, if you guys have any positive, respectful discourse, you can do that in the comments. You want to leave anything for me to help me understand more, your interpretation, your feelings on it, leave it in the comments, and I will be back for the next episode. This is episode 2, so episode 3 next week. Again, thank you for watching, and this was The Word, My Doubts. Have a wonderful day, guys.